This report just told us everything about the Pelicans coaching staff going into next season. From internal power shifts to who's really calling the shots behind the scenes, we're going to take a look at this report and find out what's going on with the future of the Pelicans coaching staff inside this edition of Pelicans Digest. What's good with it, everybody? It's your people, Melz On The MIC, once again checking in with you inside Pelicans Digest. And thank you once again for subscribing. Almost to that $3,000, baby. Let's get that, man. I had to jump back on once again today because just after I got done doing the video from earlier today, some news broke. And it involves something that we discussed a couple of days ago on this very fine quality podcast, Pelicans Digest. It was about Coach Willie Green and the future of Willie Green. If you haven't seen that video, you can go back and check it out. But for synopsis, I'll tell you what I talked about in that video if you haven't seen it. I discussed how Willie Green is on his final leg with this team. And if you look back at all the signs on why Willie Green is still a coach of this team, because a lot of NBA insiders have been saying on social media that it's crazy that Willie Green is still employed with the Pelicans. And this is something that we discussed and we can look back at to find out the truth within that situation. And what we discovered was that ownership pretty much wanted Willie Green fired, but not ownership, should I say, management. I'm sorry, David Griffin. There were several reports that came out last season that talked about how David Griffin was ordered to trade Zion Williamson and also fire Willie Green. But they blocked them firing Willie Green and gave him a contract extension. Gail Benson did. So when Joe Dumars comes in, when Joe Dumars comes in with his leadership and all that other stuff and what he wants to do and make some change, you remember he was non-committal at first. But ownership told him that he had to keep Willie Green on staff. So that brings us to the situation with Willie Green right now. He's on his final year of his contract. We've already been through it and said that this was going to be his final leg. He has got, in my opinion, I am of the opinion that no matter what happens short of an NBA championship, they're going to get Willie Green out of here. That's just... I just have this feeling. But if he comes out the gate and this team comes out the gate stumbling in the first 20 games, I can see them making a change. And I think with this report today, this gives you some idea on what kind of changes the Pelicans are possibly making in place. According to Ian Begley from SNY, the Pelicans associate head coach James Borrego, a Knicks target for a lead spot on Mike Brown's staff, will be staying in New Orleans per league sources familiar with the matter. So, again, here's why I came to this conclusion. I came to this conclusion that Joe Dumars was ordered by Gail Benson to keep Willie Green on staff to honor that contract extension that they gave him last season. They gave him that contract extension, in my opinion, because they gave him the benefit of the doubt with the injuries. I don't think they gave too much attention to his rotations and all the other basketball-related flaws that we've seen in Willie Green that we discussed in that earlier video. But I think they gave him the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, you didn't have a full roster. We'll give you one more shot at this season. So now, if you're telling me that you're, trying to do whatever you can to try to maintain James Borrego, that tells me that y'all have big plans for Borrego and have him be your coach in waiting. And Ian Begley goes on in his report. He said the Knicks interviewed Borrego for their head coaching position and had interest in adding him to Mike Brown's staff. But he is highly valued by the Pelicans and is currently under contract with the Pelicans, so he won't be an option for Brown's staff. So there you go. That tells me that if they made it a priority to keep James Borrego, that also tells me that while Borrego was probably interviewing for the Knicks job, there was some assurances made by the Pelicans. That tells me, because, this is a team that, again, don't really release too many details on coaching situations. You recall, they didn't announce the Willie Green contract extension. Somebody had to go dig that out and file somewhere. Somebody had to go dig that up. Sports Illustrated had to go dig that up. So this is a team that's not going to release too many details on what's going on with his coaching staff. But, of course, like we said before, Borrego has a different offensive mindset and scheme for the Pelicans. And they brought him in to try to get Willie to get on board. But again, at the end of the day, he's the head coach. And when it's crunch time, he's going to call the plays. Does he listen to Borrego? I don't know. Is Borrego calling those plays? I don't know, because they still were trash offensively as far as offensively wise last season, even when they were healthy. So that's the question that I have here. But as you can see, if Borrego is being highly prized by other teams in the league, and you're doing whatever you can to keep him on the staff, that tells me that you may not have the confidence that you say you have on your current situation with Willie Green. I know a lot of y'all love Willie Green. We said this before in the previous video. I know a lot of y'all love Willie Green. Y'all still hanging on to that we got to fight era. But at the same time, there have been a lot of flaws exposed. Now, are the Pelicans addressing those flaws? I think they could be, based off the roster that they're acquiring right now and trying to put together. It's all about scheme now at this point, and how you make get these guys to work together and buy in. In the current situation that we've seen with the Pelicans and Willie Green's offensive mindset, we discussed this before. He likes a lot of ISO ball. And we're getting players that can be good at that, but that's not something that we need to be totally focused on continuously. For what I've read about James Borrego's strategy on offense, it's all about constant movement and pick and rolling and screens and things like that. It's about constant movement. And to be honest with you, if you look at the offense we're kind of sort of putting together and the kind of players that we're putting together, it may be built for that. That kind of ball running, that kind of running, that kind of offensive motion. Not the ISO ball and stand around and wait, or stand around and see what Zion gonna do. We've seen a lot of that. A lot of that. Hey, give the ball to Zion and let's just stand around and see. Everybody go find a corner, stand there, give the ball to Zion and let's see what's gonna happen. We've seen a lot of that. Sorry, look, I'm getting animated thinking about it. Just thinking about some of them offensive sets over the last few years with the Pelicans. So, I don't know if this is going to be tough but I will say this. I think I got this right. I'm going to be honest with you. I think I'm calling this one right now. I think if Willie Green does not get this team off to a great start within the first 20 games of this season, they're going to fire him and put Borrego in and go straight into Borrego. If I'm Willie Green, I need to be listening to this man and letting this man do this offense. Because every time you hear Willie Green talk in post games and in interviews and stuff like that, he's always talking about a defensive team. He wants a defensive team. I want a defensive team. I want a team with a defense. You never really hear him talk about offense. Let's be honest here. That's probably Google searches all day. You can probably Google search all day on what Willie Green has to say about offense. I don't think you'll find too much. I think you'll find him talking more about defensive stuff. But at the same time, you're stacking this roster with a lot of guys that can get you at least 20 a game. With the possible and more, while still having players that can play defensively. So at the end of the day, like I said before, Willie Green is going into the season with no excuses as far as this roster. If everybody's 100% healthy, I still think, though, that short of an NBA championship, I think that's a wrap on them. Because they still got Borrego on the contract. It's just going to be fascinating to see, man. But I think I got it right on this one. What do you think? I called this shot a couple of days ago. I said that this is why you keep Borrego around. You keep Borrego on your staff. You see other teams are doing what they can to try to poach this man away from your team. That tells you that teams see something in this guy, know something about this guy that makes him want to be a head coach again. Never mind the time in Charlotte. Yes, the Charlotte situation was the Charlotte situation. you had the crazy psychopath on there, Michael Jordan. You saw them making crazy moves here and there. It was a similar situation to what's going on in New Orleans before. So I think with Borrego in this situation, this is why they're doing whatever they can to keep Borrego on this staff, because they want to keep him as the head coach in waiting if things don't turn out right with Willie Green. And even if they do turn out right with Willie Green, I still think they say, Joe Dumars and them say, all right, well, thank you for your service, but we're going to continue on in the future and see if we can go any further. Because I still think this team I've said this before, as this roster is currently constructed, it's not a championship roster this year. I think it is a playoff roster this year. Get above 40 games. Like they say, they held Zion back last season. Zion said he felt like he could have played more than 50 games last year. If Zion's that much of a factor, and let's say he accounts for 50 wins, you're in the playoffs if you're the Pelicans. You're in the playoffs. So if you stop short in the first round or the second round, the excuse is going to be something's going to, I'm more than likely sure, something's going to point out and look at this situation and say, okay, what happened in this particular gameplay situation that messed everything up? And maybe we need to make a change. We have our change sitting right there in James Borrego. Just my thoughts, man. Like I say, I think I got this one right. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this one, man? I called it a couple of days ago. This is why the news is breaking today that the Knicks have been pretty much rebuffed and told no. The Pelicans are keeping James Borrego on staff. Do you think he's going to be the next head coach in waiting? Or do you think the Pelicans, no matter what, if they're going to fire everybody, fire Willie Green, they're going to fire everybody and go in a totally different direction? And if you do think they're going to go in a different direction, who do you think they should hire? That's out there and available. Who are your thoughts? Give me your thoughts on that, man. I want to hear this. Let's clap back on that. And we'll keep you updated tomorrow on what's going on with the first game in Summer League and so much more. Hit that subscribe button, baby, and get into Pelicans Digest. It's Melz talking about them Pels. We'll holler at you next time.